There's so many fine attributes about Dan, but one that readily comes to mind is generous.
Leadership.
Thoughtful.
Enthusiastic. It's got to be one.
Faithful is a good way to explain him. Faithful to his family, faithful to his beliefs in God, faithful to his community.
Honest, very honest.
Welcoming.
Very bright and articulate.
Empathetic.
Kind, thoughtful.
Very open.
Genuine.
Family.
My dad has this saying when he's with us as a group, PMA, PMA, and okay, Dad. So everybody's like, what is PMA? Positive mental attitude.
How does Dan inspire me? I think Dan typifies everything that's good about a community volunteer. Dan follows in the footsteps not only George Weaver, but his parents, Betty Ann and Pete Reininga, were tremendous community volunteers. Dan's the same. Dan never says no to anybody. He's been tremendously involved not only in this community, but throughout Chautauqua County, and in Buffalo and West New York as well.
Dan is probably one of the most positive people you'd ever want to meet. He always looks at the glass half full, and he has inspired me to do the same each and every day.
What I admire most about Dan is his human qualities. He's a very generous and kind person. Treats people with all kinds of due respect and kindness. And I think that's what inspires me the most, is how he treats people.
Dan's just such a great leader. He was a great leader at the bank. He was someone that you could always, talk to, even though he was president and CEO. He was very engaged to the staff and very open to communicate with. Dan's philanthropy over the years too has been second to none, especially in this area. His ties to the community go deep generationally, and his commitment to his family too. That's always been a priority number one for him, and that's something that I've always thought of when I patted my own family.
I've always been a daddy's girl, and so growing up, he was really influential in just helping me to have my focus in the right place. I think that's the biggest thing. So he inspired me to really make sure that I was chasing my dreams.
It's just the fact that he was always so nice to everybody, and it just made me want to be more kind, more welcoming, and that was a really good example for me, especially because I grew up in a country that is very conservative and they're not as open like that. So that was a huge thing for me to see a different way of communicating, just approaching people. And I still, to this day, admire that the most, of how just open he is to everybody.
It's not just that he had the opportunity to put financial resources behind something that he was committed to or felt strongly about. He believes in what he's doing, and he feels a real sense of gratification for the lives that he's changed. Yeah. I mean, how do you not want to follow in those footsteps?
There have been so many contributions that Dan has made to our community, and I've been lucky enough to not only be a good friend, but to have worked with him professionally. And it was always very comforting knowing that I could go to him on behalf of the Westfield Memorial Hospital Foundation and be able to count on his support. And he's been very generous over the years, and he clearly understands the importance of having high-quality health care in our community.
Big thing that he did is he joined the board at Lakeshore Savings and Loan. And at the time, he was the youngest director to ever be elected to the board of the bank, and the bank had been around for a long, long time. And under Dan's leadership, he completed what Dave Mancuso started, transforming Lakeshore Savings and Loan from a very small town S&L with 2 branches, one in Dunkirk and one in Fredonia, to a full-service community bank.
He not only involves himself, but he has tentacles. He has outreach that goes to his friends in the community, other business associates in the community, and other charities in the community, really, that he reaches out to and brings It's like Moses. He brings everybody together.
You know, I think he just really encourages people to, again, chase their dreams. And I think also he's really good about recognizing those who should be recognized and supporting those who need to be supported.
Welcoming a random kid out of nowhere into their home and accepting, me into the family and treating me like a daughter always, and just always supporting me and providing any guidance that I ever need.
It's a combination of things. And again, he's a very smart individual, smart businessman, very involved in the community, has committed a lot of time and effort and dedication to the community. Those human traits, which I think is his greatest asset.
Definitely in the community in the city of Dunkirk. He's done great things for the city with his development, with his support, with his philanthropy. It's definitely made an impact on people's lives in the community of Dunkirk and Fredonia as well too.
His philanthropy has been felt a lot through the community, but I would say probably with Mikey's Way. I think that's probably something that is just really near and dear to his heart.
One of the things that I think people would be happy to learn about is the fact that he's climbed the highest mountain peaks in the U.S. and in Africa with each of his 3 sons, and hopes to do that one day with his daughter.
That he's very good with a chainsaw.
I think it would surprise a lot of people how deeply he's committed. It's one thing to, we're going to get behind this, and then you write a check or you do a fundraiser or whatever, but it's a whole nother ballgame to be physically rolling up your sleeves and help dig the ditch. And that's Dan.
So I think people will be very pleasantly surprised to know that my dad is very outdoorsy. Most of the time he's in a business suit and he's working hard, and that's what you see a lot. But his favorite place in the world is our cabin up in Canada. And if he could live there, he would.
Dan has always had a strong interest in flying, airplanes. The other piece is Dan's a great cook.
Impactful, if I was going to use a word.
It's one of graciousness.
I mean, Dan's legacy, I would say, would be his work in the community, his work as working with not-for-profits and supporting people in this area, and I would say his biggest legacy would be his family, his kids and his grandkids.
I think the legacy that Dan's leaving behind is a lot like George Weaver's. He's been involved every place. He's been a very significant financial donor, and he's made a big impact on everything he's done.
Oh, that's one of the words that I really think describes my dad well, is legacy, and a really great job well done in the family legacy, and the community legacy, in the work ethic in our family business and in the bank. And yeah, he's wonderful. He gets it right. He sees the bigger picture. He sees he sees how important family is, and I think that he sees the importance of a person, and that all people are important.
To me, I feel like he's still building, and he's still going to be doing so much more. And now it's interesting because we were talking about when he retired. I'm like, oh, you're going to slow down, relax. And he started talking to me about all those plans, and I'm like, oh, no, that's not happening, which is amazing. Like, he has that motivation, that energy to do more. And with already so much that he has done, there's more.
It's interesting, and going back to his parents, as I mentioned, I've known Pete and Betty Ann before I knew the boys. And I saw that generosity and concern for other people from Pete and Betty Ann. And that's just carried down to Dan and David, and of course with David's wife Kathy, and of course Dan's wife Wendy, right down to the children. They understand the importance of helping people and providing that encouragement and assistance.
He's just great. He's great as a person. He's great as a dad. He's great in everything he does. He puts all his heart into, and he makes it look so easy. And yeah, he's a really good example in my life for sure.
It's just that Dan always had 3 things he would say after he would come back from climbing a mountain or a summit. Your attitude determines your altitude. It would be an all-day pace, and respect is gained when composure is maintained.
You know, I'm 67 years old, and I've learned one thing. When you're talking about accomplishments in life, I would rather they talk about how I touched people rather than how big my bank account was. And you certainly could say that about Dan. It doesn't matter. It's the people he touched and the people that he continues to touch.
I mean, since my brothers can't be here and my sister, you know, I think if they were here, we would all say, you know, thank you. He's been a huge blessing to all of us. And there's just so many great memories and things that he's enabled us to be able to do in our life. And the older I get, the more I realize just how important it is to have a dad, or parents really, who support you. And he's been very instrumental in that.
I can't think of anybody that's more deserving of this award than Dan Reininga.